Our standard, we are digital. So streaming 2 times, spicefm.co.ke and on the homepage of the standardmedia.co.ke site. TLC Waterfalls coming up. Got some Janet Jackson, and of course some Faith Evans. Good morning, I'm Olivia Otieno. This is Double O Direct. Woman host, music by women. Only women guests like Wangu Kanja, a sexual violence survivor and an activist. She set up the Wangu Kanja Foundation to support women survivors of gender-based violence. Welcome to Double O Direct.
Asante sana.
You're telling me it's not just GBV.
Yeah, Wangu Kanja Foundation focuses on sexual violence because that's what I went through. And I understand what a person goes through and also what kind of support the person requires. So we focus on sexual violence, but we don't turn away other survivors or victims of gender-based violence, whether man, woman, or child. Yeah.
When did you set up the foundation?
In 2005, because my rape ordeal happened in 2002.
You and I met by sheer coincidence.
Yeah.
We were just standing there chatting. Then suddenly I was like, "Whoa, I like you." How come we've never crossed paths, Wangu?
I don't know. Everything has its own right timing. What do they say? Like God has the perfect timing for two people to meet.
Yes.
It was bound to happen. So we can't force things. And then the ones that come naturally just happen.
And are the best ones.
Yeah.
So thank you to the people at the Italian Embassy, especially His Excellency Alberto Pieri. Otherwise, I never would have met this amazing woman. So give me some background on yourself, Wangu.
So I'm a firstborn in a family of 5, and I worked on marketing, accounting, but then after the incident happened, then I had to change. I had to change everything to actually look at how best do I help my community or address some of the things that are happening in our community. So let me say I'm just that simple.
The violence that you experienced, was it from somebody you know?
No, it was a total stranger because it was a carjacking incident. The guys who carjacked us were robbing us at gunpoint, and my incident actually happened at gunpoint. Yeah. And so when you go through sexual violence and you've not given consent, because normally people look at rape like it's just sex. It's not sex because you have not given consent to the other person. The person is taking your dignity by forcing you to have sex with them, and that destroys you as a person. So for 2.5 years, I went into depression, and I had to figure out how I start my healing journey, but also how do I come back to Wangu. And I'm not going to be that Wangu, but how do I come back to being Wangu? So I started trying to figure out how do I do that. Because it's difficult, first and foremost, as a society. And I know you know this. We don't talk about sex, sexuality, and sexual violence. So when you come out and say, I'm a rape survivor, everyone labels you that person who was raped. And they actually put the burden on you because we think survivors put themselves in a position to be violated. Yet that's not the case, because we have women who have been raped in their houses when thugs break in, carjacking incidences, children. For me, I don't believe we need to put the burden on survivors. We need to hold accountable the people who are committing these crimes.
Was there an investigation? Were the perpetrators caught, brought to book? Did anything happen?
No, because 1, I couldn't identify them. 2, still now, it's a lengthy, tiring, frustrating process for so many people because cases take long, 5 years, 10 years, because of one reason or the other. So for me, even if I wanted to pursue justice, it's an option that I chose not to, because every single time you have to wait, go to court, maybe postponement of the case because of one thing or the other. So it takes longer, and in that process, you have to keep on looking for psychosocial support. And most of the time, that service is not easily available, but also it's costly if you have to get the right person to work with you.
So here you are, a survivor. You've experienced this terrible ordeal. You're now transitioning from the Wangu you were pre-incident to the Wangu you became after. In those 2.5 years during the Depression, at what point did you decide, I want to work to support survivors? I want to set up a foundation.
So I'll take you back. When I was growing up, I wanted to do something charitable and around human rights. So I didn't know what then. But then after the incident, I was like, I think I can use my experience to help other people. So I was seated somewhere because one of my coping mechanism was alcohol. And it's not abnormal for anyone to want to numb their pain because it happens. And most people would either do it through sex, through alcohol, through drugs, or other coping mechanisms. So mine was alcohol. Around the third year, I was seated in a bar and I was like, Wangu, this is not okay. You need just to address what happened to you. It's difficult and you have to come into terms with it. You don't have people to work with you, but you need to address it. That's where I started having that conversation. Like I called myself for a meeting and said, Wangu, you need to change and you need to find people to help you to start your healing journey.
Who were those people?
So the first thing I did is I joined Amani Counseling Center to do some training. I didn't want to do one-on-one counseling with anyone. I just wanted to understand what is the journey and how does it look like. And during that time, I had to do 30 hours of counseling so that I could qualify for the courses that I'd taken. And I managed to address some of the issues there. And then there's a program run by Tia Fund in 2012, 2013, around there. It's called Inspired Individuals. They were identifying people who are doing something in the community to transform their communities. So they identified me, recruited me, and for the first 2 years, we had to focus on Wangu. Rehabilitation, counseling, coaching, mentorship. They worked with me. And I'm grateful because even today we are friends and they keep on asking, so where are you at? How do you want us to help? They're still working with me. And then the third year they looked at, what do you want to do with your organization? And how do we help? And then there's Alabastron, Renewing Self program, where you actually have 12 weeks to have a conversation with you. Go through every single baggage in your life. And one of the baggages was my repo deal. And I'm glad that I had people working with me because I want to do the same for other survivors who do not have someone to work with them. Because it's a difficult journey and it's difficult to talk to people because they always blame the victims and the survivors who've been violated instead of holding the offenders or the person who has committed that crime accountable.
Spice.
Olivia Otieno, this is Double O Direct, a safe space. So safe, right? So safe. Once I didn't even wear pants. Yeah, remember, I just wore the costume and the jacket. Yep, didn't even wear pants. That's how safe it is, let me tell you. But the jacket, popping jacket. Today, I am dressed by the Native Woman. Look her up on Instagram, _native_woman. Her M-Pesa names are Akinyi Owino. And if you ever see her, please direct her my way because she makes amazing clothes, but we have never met. All right. The music by Tony Braxton and Deborah Cox coming up. But I'm with a woman who's made it her mission to support survivors of sexual violence. And Wangu, it's not just women, is it?
No, we have men and we have children. And the sad thing is we can't give you actual statistics of how many cases are happening either in a day, in a week, in a year, because we, as a country, we don't have proper mechanisms to document those cases. According to the Kenya Demographic Health Survey for the 2016, 46% women might have gone through a form of gender-based violence. So you see, that's a mixture of everything, but we can't zoom down to sexual violence and say these so many women, men or children have experienced this. But then we need to have a candid conversation. One rape is one rape too many. So for me, we need to have 0 cases happening in Kenya. And I'm hoping Kenyans would actually understand that it's more expensive to rehabilitate a person who has gone through any form of sexual violence or gender-based violence, and work on creating a safe environment for people to have conversations without fear of stigma, discrimination, retaliation, victimization. So we just need to open a safe space and allow people to share their experiences, because I know a number of people have come out and talked about their experiences, but then they're trolled on the different social media platforms. That's just wrong.
It is very wrong. And we're having a brief conversation about the 16 days of activism. For me, it's not just 16 days.
Yeah.
For me, it's an every day, every minute, every hour need for having a conversation. But I want to understand, from the 16 days that was marked last year, this late last year, what came out of that?
Okay, so the 16 days are meant to be days to address different forms of human rights violations, including gender-based violence. But it needs to be a conversation for every single second, minute, hour, day, week.
Yes.
Because we have 16 days where we are very hyped around, let's do this, let's do that. And then after that, the hype dies down and then we go back to 0. We wait for the next 16 days of activism. We need to have these conversations every other day. And I'm actually happy that you gave me this opportunity, because then it creates a safe environment for people to feel that it's safe to talk about your experience without the fear of retaliation or stigma.
The retaliation for me is what does it. Like I cannot imagine people sitting somewhere and adding pain to somebody who's already experienced so much pain. But what I really wanted to get to the point of is, did any legislation, did any law, did any greater consequence come out of those 16 days here in Kenya? Because currently, what is the consequence for sexually attacking another person?
So we are not short of laws. We have the Sexual Offences Act, and we have an 18 or 15 additional laws that protect or provide provisions for survivors of sexual violence. Where we have gaps and challenges is actually on budget allocations, enforcement of the laws, and also investigations. Because if the police don't have the right commodities to do the investigations, the end product will actually end up denying survivors access to justice. So we are not short of laws. That I can confirm.
What does the Wangu Kanja Foundation do with regards to trying to close those gaps?
So we've identified quite a number of gaps, and we are reaching out to the different government institutions to have conversations with them. And we are bringing survivors, because we convene the Survivors of Sexual Violence in Kenya network. We bring survivors to the table to have a conversation and say, this will work, this will not work. Because if you do not involve the people who have gone through the experience, then you developing interventions without asking whether it will work or not, or uptake. Them uptaking the services is just, for me, it's just ridiculous and it doesn't make sense.
Are there countries that you look upon for us as Kenya to benchmark against? Because maybe we don't have, the resources. Maybe we're not enforcing the law. Maybe we're not able to do the investigations. Are there countries that you say, hey, we're not just talking randomly here. X, Y, and Z country currently does that. And if we're not looking at Europe or North America or wherever, are there other African countries, for example, that could be a good case study for us?
Yeah, we have Ronda in South Africa. So they have best practices. And the thing is, sexual violence should be a priority for any government for things to fall into place. If we leave it to civil society organizations, then we are going down a downhill that might never come back, because the priority, the government needs to make this a priority for them, because if you make it a priority, then it means you are allocating resources, personnel, and setting up offices to make sure that the issue is addressed comprehensively.
Speaking of addressing issues, you said that we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about sexuality, we don't talk about sexual violence. Where should these conversations be taking place?
From the home. That's where the conversation needs to start.
So you think we have a cultural challenge, a cultural sort of roadblock for that?
So let me ask you, if you have a child.
I do. I'm a mother of a 5-year-old. He's just the best in the world. Yes.
So if he asked you about how do babies get into this world?
I said magic. No, I did not.
Yeah.
No. You're right. I mean, for me and him, we are very, very close, my son and I.
Yeah.
So with understanding that he's just turned 5, right? I try to firstly give him the anatomically correct names of parts of his body.
Yeah.
I don't say PP or things like that. You know, we give the full names of anatomically, and then from there we want to move on. But as he grows, I think that's really, really important. Of course, his father is Caucasian, so it's a mixed race home. And I think that's how I want to understand in a stereotypical Kenyan household. How does it work?
So most of the time, parents don't talk to their children about anything in relation to either sex or sexuality or even their bodies. Calling the right names of their private parts helps. If you go to court and a child says, let me give you the normal words that people use, especially in informal settlements, kalamu, nyoka. So if you go to court, it will take a lot of time to try and establish. So what does nyoka mean in that context? And if you get a good defense lawyer, then they might use that to introduce doubt into the case. So for me, it's, can we just, at the family level, can we have candid conversations? I don't think God created sex to be a bad thing, or didn't giving a man a penis and a woman vagina. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, because it was created for 1, pleasure, and 2, procreation. So why are we using those tools to bring in pain?
Wow, Wangu, there's just so much. I want to understand how both genders come to the Wangu Kanja Foundation. I also want to understand what else we can do as society, because there's a lot the government has to do, but also us as Kenyans, what else can we do? Once again, how can you be reached online?
At Wangu Kanja, that's our Twitter handle.
WANGU
KANJA.
Otieno, this is 00 Direct. Woman host songs by women, a focus on a different woman in fashion every single week, and only women guests. Coming up, we get intentional. Please, very intentional about recognizing a woman in our life that recently brought some sunshine and some warmth. Hey, it has been cold. Yeah. We know those days. It's been quite cold. Carol Kinoti, the big daddy. Yeah, I know. You need it. It's this huge, like blanket, but you wear it. Yeah. Oh, yes. Let me tell you that's just what we need. Yeah. For me, the woman that brought warmth into my life is the Italian Deputy Ambassador to Kenya, Lorenza Gambacorta. She is as hilarious as she is brilliant. Don't let that title fool you. She's a phenomenal woman. Yeah, I'll tell you why. But right now, I want to wrap things up with sexual violence survivor and activist Wangu Kanja. Wangu, there are so many things I'd like to know. Number one, do people walk into the foundation? How do they contact you?
So we have an office where people walk in.
Yes.
We have a telephone number where people reach out to us.
Yes.
anywhere and everywhere, people will always walk up to me and ask,
Yes.
how can you assist me to address one or two things? Because you have to figure out what's the need for that particular person.
What are the primary services of the foundation, primarily?
It's offering comprehensive care and support for survivors
Yes.
through other partners, but also we handhold. The most important thing is we handhold survivors through the criminal justice system or the referral pathway by going to hospital, reporting at the police station, and also sitting with them while they are going through their court processes.
This is something that I hope nobody ever experiences, but in the event of sexual violence, what's the first thing you should do?
Please go to hospital, because then we are able to mitigate by ensuring that you get post-exposure prophylaxis within the first 72 hours so that you don't contract any sexually transmitted infection, get pregnant. But the most important of it all is that we are able to preserve evidence. While you're accessing medical interventions, we are also collecting evidence, because at the hospital, that's where we collect most of the evidence that we require to build your case. But then also it is important to report. Please don't shy away from reporting, because if you don't hold that person accountable, they will continuously and continue violating other people. So we need to hold them accountable.
So in addition to the trauma of the experience, there's also the fear, the stigma, and then I don't have anything on me. I've just been attacked. How do I pay for the hospital bill? How do I go to seek treatment when I have nothing on me?
Most of the public facilities are offering post-rape care services for free for survivors. If you go to a hospital and they charge you, please reach out to us and let us know, because this is one of the conversations that we are having with government. It is provided under the law. So why are survivors not accessing free services at the public facilities? So the services are free.
Okay, so first things first, go to hospital.
Yes.
You will be taken care of. The service is free.
Yeah.
Number 2, reporting. Can it be done at the medical facility, or must you then go to a police station?
You must go to a police station. Make sure that when you're leaving the hospital, you have your medical report, and use the medical report to report your case at a police station.
Question, if I had a car and I hit someone with my car, the police comes to the site.
Yeah.
Why can't the police come to the hospital?
So one of the things that we are trying to do is lobby for one-stop centers.
Yes.
But we are not there yet. You remember the conversation where you asked me, who are we learning from? So we are trying to see how best, because every context has its own challenges and strengths. So how do we borrow from Rwanda or South Africa to implement in Kenya? Because you can't adopt it as it is, because Kenya and Rwanda are two different countries.
Yes.
So one of the things is the police might come to you, but there's a likelihood that you have to go to a police station with your medical report. And the reason why I'm saying go with your medical report and make sure you report at the police station, we cannot initiate a process without a formal complaint at the police station.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your parting words? I know I've taken up a lot of your Saturday, and I really appreciate you coming to talk to me on the fly, considering we just met on Thursday.
Yeah.
Yes, what are your parting words, Wangu?
For me, I would request, let's call out people who are actually committing cases, sexual violence crimes. Because if we don't, we give survivors a lot of burden to prove that it actually happened. So if you know someone, please do not accommodate them. Call them out and hold them accountable, because at the end of the day, we will be saving so many other lives. And the one thing that you need to do as an individual, work with the survivor to help them restore their dignity.
I'm going to, for 1 second, play devil's advocate. Cases, and recently there was a famous case that's just been dismissed of alleged assault in marriage. I'm not going to give the names of the people, but what happens when you do that? One, you don't have evidence. Two, the law comes back and says you didn't have enough evidence, or, you actually defamed this person by saying they committed X and Y act. And yet, you're on your own against somebody who's obviously in maybe stronger or more popular or more beloved, right? So while it's, nice of you to sit here and say, yeah, let's call these people out, let's make sure that they're named and shamed, within what parameters, within what framework is it actually safe for those who are victims to do so?
If you have the evidence, and evidence can be either texts, someone might have beaten you up and you have injuries and you've gone to hospital and you've documented. If you have any form of evidence, you have full proof because you have the evidence, and you can call that person out because you're not going to be defaming them. They actually committed a crime because you took the right processes and you documented the incident. Without documenting the incident, then you don't have enough evidence to call the person out. Please document the incident in any way, either written, video, or even going to make a formal complaint, because that's evidence enough. Because most time people will say, let the court actually prove that person is guilty or not. But with our system, sometimes the investigations have gaps, and then you might not end up getting the person convicted.
Yes.
Then it works against you. But if you document the case, you can call that person out.
Make sure you reach out to the Wangu Kanja Foundation. It offers support for survivors, brings survivors together. You're able to, heal in a group and work through the process. And Wangu, thank you so much for, honoring my invitation and joining me this morning.
Anytime.
Enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
Santi sana.
SpiceFM.